Hi, it's Corrine. Thanks so much for stopping by. Today I'm making two clean and simple cards, and I did want these cards to coordinate in a way, which I'll explain more in just a moment. I am using a silhouette cameo to cut these designs out. I printed out my sentiments on Hammermill 80-pound cardstock, and I used a Spellbinders rectangle die to cut my card base out. That way it has a nice, pretty beveled edge. So these outline plants, if you have any dies that you can inlay, it's going to be the same thing. I did not have any that I wanted to use. However, I had this silhouette cameo die that I wanted to use, so I just cut it out using my silhouette cameo. And as I mentioned, I printed out my sentiments. I looked through my sentiments. I needed 2 condolence cards. I didn't have any sentiments that I wanted to use or that I liked with the cards, so I just mixed and matched some fonts in my computer and printed them out on the Hammermill cardstock, and then cut that card base out with my Spellbinders rectangle die. So I am using a fine tip glue bottle. I do add the glue to the back and then press it off on a scrap piece of paper. That way it eliminates a lot of the glue and it doesn't seep out. And glued one outline onto my card base. And now using all Concord and 9th cardstock, I'm going to inlay the pieces back in. So for the stems, the plants, the leaves of the stems, I didn't need the entire design cut out, so I just kind of placed it on my mat so it mostly cut the leaves. And now I'll just get rid of the parts I don't need, and I'll pick up the light and dark. I did a artichoke and grasshopper for the leaves, so there's a little bit of variation in color. We have a little bit of a light and a dark. So I'll just alternate the sides. And as you can see, I'm just kind of holding everything down with magnets. Once you glue it down and you put a magnet over it, those are really strong. It'll hold everything in place to give it a chance to dry. I'm working on a Glassboard Studio glass mat, and it's super easy to clean up, and I love the magnet feature. I do have a discount code down in the description box if you're interested. I love it. So I'm just taking my time placing each one. Sorry, my head gets in the way a little bit there. And then putting the magnet on it to give it a minute to dry while I'm gluing other areas. Once I've inlaid all the pieces, I will go back and put a second black outline piece over the top just to kind of finish everything off. So I needed, unfortunately, 2 condolence cards. A friend of mine, we had another friend pass away, unfortunately, and my friend who lives in Canada really wanted to send the family a card, but because of the postal strike that's going on right now, she was unable to, so I had offered to send one for her. So that's why I thought having 2 cards that came in the mail separately to the family that kind of coordinate would be a good way to go. So for my yellows, I'm using honeycomb and stardust. For the card on the left, I used cayenne and spiced cider, and I incorporated the same colors with the card on the right, but I also included lakefront and then the 2 yellows that I mentioned. So this was just a very simple process of inlaying. Like I said, you can do this with a lot of dies. I love the look of inlay cards, and I did want to keep these clean and simple. I had set all my pieces in place first, and then I went back and glued them in just so I could get the colors in the order that I wanted. So like I mentioned here, I do add the glue. I am using a fine tip glue bottle, but it is still helpful to press it off on a scrap piece of paper to get rid of any excess glue. Again, I put some paperweights on top of that, gave it a little time to dry. Once it was dry, I pulled out 2 black A2 sized card bases. My card front panels, again, I did mention were cut from Spellbinders rectangle die. I used just slightly bit smaller. I think it was an 1/8 inch smaller all the way around. I place those down with my magnets to hold it in place while I glue it on. That way it allows me to kind of get it centered the way I want. Gave those a little time to dry. The card on the right, I wanted to add a heart to that to take up a little bit of that white space. So I just pulled out a heart punch that I had, punched out 2 of them from some black scrap cardstock, and adhered that down. I do go back and add a few clear dewdrops to both cards. Again, trying to keep these very clean and simple, being that it's going to her husband and son and family. I did add 2 die cuts, rectangle dies for the inside of the cards in order to add the sentiments to my card from myself, and then add sentiment for my friend Tracy to send to the family. I did also make some handmade envelopes. I like using my We Are Makers envelope punch board. It takes just a few minutes to make a handmade envelope. So I hope you've enjoyed the process. I will link in the description box again to the Glassboard Studios. I have a discount code, but I'll also link the design that I used if you're interested in using the same design. Thank you so much for stopping by. I hope you'll consider giving this video a like and subscribe to my channel. Have a great day.